Welcome to the Black Appalachian Coalition's podcast entitled Black Remembering, where we will bring to you the heavy and the hope across the Ohio River Valley. We want to remember who we are, where we've come from. We want to speak to the oral history of what we've done, what we've achieved. We want to speak to the ills that we have experienced while also finding solutions to those problems, those issues. We want to deal with the narrative that has kept us deeply rooted in despair. Now we want to punch through that narrative and stand up and say, we are remembering our Black past, and we are rooted, and we are here to stay. Welcome to Black Remembering. We hope that you find your place, your space, and your voice in this podcast.
Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the Black Remembering podcast, where we highlight the heavy and the hope. This episode of our Black Remembering podcast welcomes a very special guest, Phoenix Berry. Thank you for coming on to the show, Phoenix.
Of course. I'm so excited to be here.
All right, let's do a little soul scan check-in thing to get started. We met during a chaotic time before the policy summit officially began because the Microsoft thing had crashed and the hotel rooms weren't accessible and everybody was hungry and tired from traveling. So we walked down to this barbecue spot and it had like this big chef's name with this really noticeable hair. We won't say his name, and the sign drew us to it because of that big name. And we scarfed down the food. And then at the end, Phoenix, I think you said something along the lines of, that was okay. I was just hungry. And that was accurate. Like, that food was mid at best and we were hangry, so we scarfed it. But anyways, people often find community through food, and we got to know each other at first over a bit of food. Even though it was a very basic barbecue meal, we still got to know each other over a meal. So what's your favorite meal to have with people in your community?
Ooh, my favorite meal that I like to have with people in my community, I would definitely have to say like it's between like burgers, but also I really like to share like jerk chicken with people because jerk chicken is so good. But I also feel like to some people it is so spicy and so hot that they can't help but to like, it makes them do that like ha 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 ha, which it makes people like want to talk more. And that's why I love to share with people.
I love it. Thank you. Recreating my late OG Queens like food staples around the holidays. That's like my favorite food things to share. Partially for bragging rights, because like it's hard to get her dressing right, and other family members have tried and failed, but I usually do it, and I'm proud of that. And her sweet potato pie. Yeah, that's like the only time around the year that we do it. And anybody who says like, "Ooh, that tastes like hers," it's like swelling with pride. Like, yay!
Right.
And then we start talking about her. So, all right. So, the Black Appalachian Coalition again is honored to have you as our guest. I really wanted to bring you on to understand your community story. So, first off, what does community organizing mean to you?
I think community organizing to me is something that is it's deeper than just a practice or a theory. I definitely think it's something that is a way of life, if not more, because of the world that we live in, especially in a colonized world. Colonization doesn't want us to like be in community with one another and be able to share, be open, have hope, and all these other different things. So it's like, to me, for community organizing, it's deeper than like a practice, but it's like the actual implementation of decolonization and also self-care, because a lot of community organizations or organizers that I talk to, they are like, we got to be on go like 1000% because of, right now problems. But community organizing is a thing of where it's like, thinking about your community, but also the community that's happening after it, because we are all like just parts of a branch on a tree, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's about longevity, not just looking out for the current community, but looking out for the future. So, what inspired you to come into community organizing?
Recognizing that I'm part of a bigger like thing. I feel like when I was growing up, I was really like inwardly focused. Like I was always thinking about ways to improve myself or ways to like just understanding myself. But as I got older, I started to recognize that a lot of the things that I was going through and a lot of things that I was experiencing was being experienced like at large. So there's like people in my community, like they're also struggling with rent. There's people that are having like food insecurity. There's people that are having problems like getting mobility aids or, you know, medication, and problems with the environment. And it's like being able to be in a group of people where it's not only just me trying to find solutions, it's like being able to share and like bounce ideas off of people, but also feeling like vulnerable and safe. So it's like the things that I wanted to feel, I basically was like, you have to be the change that you want to see in the world. So I basically just started doing that. And ever since then, it's just been like inspiring in itself.
I can't remember if I read it or heard it, but someone was like, if you learn something, but you can't take it back to your community and make that information accessible to your community, then you didn't learn anything. And that's like kind of the life move, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Someone from my alma mater tried to plant a small garden behind her apartment, and she said her property manager came through and ripped it all up, which is freaking wild because it's a garden and
Bruh.
she wasn't hurting anybody. Like the property manager's priorities were grossly misplaced. But did you have a similar conflict with misplaced authority and the garden, or am I conflating that?
No, I definitely, okay, so I have a little garden that's on my back porch.
Mhm.
And something that I always like to do is like, I like to tell people that sustainability is one of the number one ways that we're going to be able to fight against colonization, especially when it comes to working with nature. Something that I've always wanted to do in my apartment complex is to put up like a garden or like a little greenhouse. But with the issues of capitalism as well, they make it to where it's so difficult, and there's always like a grant or there's a law or there's something that they have to do. Oh, it doesn't follow this rule for budgetary reasons, that makes it very difficult. And I just feel like colonization and then capitalism just plays into those types of roles, especially when it comes to people like, you know, like having food access and stability. They make it very difficult, because I truthfully believe that it's a way to keep people working instead of using the resources around them, because it's like nature is right there. But because of the fact that, you know, there's constructs such as like zoning and all these other things, like it really makes it difficult, which is where I think there's like this thing called like dual think, which is kind of like double consciousness that like people live
Two thoughts.
in.
I would
Mm-hmm.
love to hear more about Dualthink because I've never heard of that before. And two, nature is right there. Like you're right. I'm thinking of the ways that like cities will plant all these different like trees that can't fertilize, like because that can't like reproduce fruit because they'd rather like they want you to buy that essentially. Like, and there's so much pollen and in different places, and it's unnecessary because, anyways, capitalism sucks. Um, what is dual think?
Yes, I feel like that's actually the reason why a lot of people have allergies too.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, because it's like they have like the male trees that are basically like, you know, they're trying to reproduce, but they try to reproduce with humans, and that's just, it's not possible. I experienced that in Miami, where they just had like, oh my gosh, every morning I would go out there and get a mango. It was amazing. I wanted to bring it back to Kentucky, and I'm trying to figure out a way. I think it's gonna happen. But dual think is this like concept, or this thing that I've kind of been like exploring, because I'm not sure if that's like the correct terminology for it, but it's like in double consciousness, W.E. Du Bois talks about how Black people, specifically like Black people in America, have to kind of fight this duality of like recognizing the fact that we have experienced, like our ancestors have experienced this generational trauma, and that we're still experiencing a lot of like racism and just like hate, like even to this, like literal to this day. Like I hear it on the news all the time. But then also having to participate in this system, which is colonialism, and being able to like, or not being able, but literally having to continue like the American system of progression, which is literally built off of the backs of our ancestors and us currently. Um, but Dualthink taps into that, but then it thinks of it as like the whole of the world, especially when it comes to colonization, because colonization, I feel like, is a tool that people use to keep people oppressed. So Dualthink is being able to be like, okay, recognizing that you as a person have an intersectionality of different problems or different like oppressive factors that can make you experience the world in a specific way because of that oppression and how that oppression affects you. So like me, for example, my intersectionality is that I'm low income, I'm Black, I'm queer, femme presenting, and all these other different things that makes it harder for me to operate in this colonized world. If I was a person in this next lifetime where there's most likely going to be a violent revolution, because I think that there might be, I just don't think it'll happen in this time, how would people like me be able to be sustainable when that happens? How will people be able to get their medication and things like that? But the Dualthink is being able to recognize that, like, okay, we are in a colonized system. Now, how do we break out of it while also making sure that it's like an easy like transition, or not even really easy, but like a more comfortable transition for people that don't have the same resources or the same point of view as you do, because we're all colonized. It's just a matter of fact of everyone getting organized with their unique, you know, things that they can offer.
Consistent critical thinking, like applied to your existence in the world. I love it. Um, so every community and everyone's activism isn't the same. What is your approach to community organizing? Like, what keeps you going, and how do you maintain that passion and integrity even on days where it seems daunting, if it ever does?
Yeah. Oh, there's several days where it be feeling like hella daunting. I feel like that's the thing though, is like what I love about community is figuring out people's unique strengths and then empowering them to like grow on that strength. Like there's some people that are really good at things like self-defense, who are really great at like fighting and things like that. They should be able to use that to, you know, train other people like self-defense, especially like you know, femme and queer people. Then there's some people who are better storytellers. They can tell stories, you know, of inspiration, you know, write down people's stories, you know, kind of make like an archive. There's just different ways that people can tap in to the best part of themselves to offer their unique form or unique way of like organizing. And I think that that really helps me be able to organize better, because I'm not holding myself to this colonial pressure of, because the thing is organizing can also be colonized. Almost anything can be colonized if you're not actually taking the time to decolonize, right? So it's like if you're organizing and you're telling yourself, I have to do it this way, I have to do it with urgency, I have to make sure that it's perfect and that's right, that's colonization. And you're operating in that colonized mode of thinking with probably without even recognizing it. But it's like someone told me, like, we've been living in colonized system for how many years? Like a long ass time. So it's not something we're not going to be able to decolonize in just like a day.
Right.
You know, colonization has been around for thousands of years. So whenever I'm feeling daunting in those moments, I just have to remind myself that number one, isolation is also a tool of colonialism. So I need to get out in my community and actually like talk to people, whether if it's online or if it's family or if it's friends or, just going to like different spaces. But also reminding myself that the way that I'm organizing and the things that I'm adding is such a unique thing that other people should tap into their unique selves. And everyone is on that process of doing that.
A part of the isolating part of social media is that we like see so many things about people who are introverted and as an introverted person, like I attest to this, but I think the misconception is that like being introverted means you have to be alone, and it's more so like that's just how you like re-energize yourself or recharge. But the narrative online is like, no, we have to like live in these isolated pockets. Like it's kind of quirky, it's quirky to be alone, and it's weird. And I feel like that kind of took off after the pandemic. So thank you for saying that isolation is also a tool of colonialism. That a word, a whole word, a whole.
And see, and that's the thing too, because like, I mean, I consider myself a little bit of an ambivert, or it's really dependent on whatever mood I am. But it's like introverted people, like, it's not that they don't want to be in community, especially when it comes to online stuff. It's like that's just some people recharge easier by filling their own cup. Mm-hmm. Some people recharge easier by filling other people's cups and having their cups filled. So it's like, however you're able to fill your cup and do that self-care, that's how you do it. But that doesn't mean that you need to be isolated, because I hear that like a lot.
Thank you, Phoenix. If you had like unlimited funds, unlimited resources, unlimited access, how would you use those to make your community dreams come true? And what do you want to see in your community?
If I had unlimited funds, I think the first thing that I would do is I would invest in the like buildings and making sure that people can have their own like rent controlled apartments and stuff like that. And then also making sure that people have like the food gardens and stuff like that. My vision is I want to see the world be like Solarpunk. I'm obsessed with Solarpunk. Aquaponics, hydroponics, all of it. Yes. And it's like I would truly invest in my community to make sure that they can have that. Oh, and then also make it more walkable and make our transportation better. I feel like I think about that often because I feel like money is such a construct that is like that colonialism has made up to keep us like working, especially like in this capitalist society and late stage capitalism with like rent rising and everything like that. So it's like I always try to think about ways I can make those things slowly like into a reality without like having those funds. So I guess like in a sense, kind of already working towards those things. But like if the money was there, I guess it would make it easier.
I love it. I love that you're already working towards those things. Sans resources, sans like unlimited hypothetical. You're making that reality happen.
Well, yeah, because it's like in the next generation, like I want to make it easier for them. So it's like, I could at least start the process of something to where it's like, at least community gardens teach a whole bunch of people how to, feed themselves. That's a start. Teaching people how to build, all of that's just a start to sustainability, like after, or while decolonizing.
You are profound when you speak. And you don't, it's not just words. Like you can tell that you put action and thought and passion behind what you say and how you say it. Even in our email interactions, you drop the nugget. We have many tomorrows, and that just kind of like made me pause my whole day. Like, yes, we do. So would you please leave our audience with a little nugget of wisdom? Any advice or affirmations that you'd like to share as well?
I always tell myself that I'm able to do what I put my mind to. So I guess I'll leave everyone with that. You're able to do what you put your mind to. And colonization is something that really stops people from being their authentic selves. So if you ever find yourself criticizing yourself, literally just ask yourself, like, what would a decolonized version of you in a decolonized world think?
What would a decolonized version of ourselves think in a decolonized world? I am so grateful that we met at the Policy Summit. Even if the barbecue was mid, even that it was mid, because it was. And I'm really hoping to stay in community with each other. All right, so how can our listeners stay connected with you via website or social media handles? We can see the fashion show pictures and all.
Okay, yes, totally. My TikTok, which is Apollo's Kid, and then my Instagram, I will be Nubia. I post on there all the time, especially memes to help people whenever you're going through like, you know, a bad day, because colonization can do that. But also my Substack too. If you want to hear more like about like my thoughts and how I'm like trying to deconstruct the world and like, you know, decolonize, I post a lot on there, especially when it comes to reading, because I love reading books and being able to look at them from like a like decolonized, like radical like point of view.
And that Substack is phoenixunb.substack.com. Check them out. Thank you so much, Phoenix, for coming on to the show. And thank y'all for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Peace and blessings, y'all.